My mom and sister tried to reconcile me with my ex for years, but I eventually married someone else and got pregnant. I started dating my brother's best friend when I was 16, and we were together until I graduated high school. He proposed, but I rejected it. This led to a lot of drama, with my family asking me to reconsider. They suggested we could have a long engagement or make a promise to eventually reconcile. My relationship with my brother, who is now 36, was strained for a while, but the one with my sister, who is 32, never fully recovered. She was convinced that my ex was the best fit for me, and things became unbearable when she started dating my ex's brother. My ex was invited everywhere by my siblings, even to some family holidays, but I didn't say anything since he was their friend too. However, things escalated when my sister began pushing for us to get back together. She did everything from trying to set us up on blind dates to making us share a room during holidays. No matter the occasion, my ex was always invited. After a while, I had enough and asked my parents to step in. They were clear with my siblings and stopped allowing my ex to tag along so frequently. Things slightly improved, as my brother backed off, but my sister did not. Everything came to a head when I met my husband during a semester abroad. He was from another university but the same country, and we just clicked. It was magical for me, and we got engaged after dating for a year. My family was very happy for me, except for my sister. She kept insisting that I was just in the honeymoon phase and would eventually grow out of it. I didn't. After countless fights and repeated attempts to reunite me with my ex, I warned my sister that if she tried anything again, I would stop talking to her. What did she do after that warning? She made me her maid of honor and arranged for me to spend all my time with a bridal party, which included my ex. She even set up one of her friends as my husband's, then fiancé's, date. We didn't realize this until the reception when that poor girl tried to make a pass at my husband. My sister claimed that since we weren't married yet, it was fine to explore things with other people. I left the party, and the next day I spoke with my parents and brother. I explained that while I wouldn't force them to choose, I would not talk to my sister ever again. I also made it clear that if they tried to push for reconciliation, I would cut contact with them too. My mom was devastated and tried to negotiate, but my dad and brother said they would respect my decision. Aside from 2 attempts from my mom, I haven't spoken or written to my sister in the past 6 years. Over the years, my sister has tried everything to reconcile, from gifts to tantrums, but I simply don't engage with her at all. At family events or dinners, I act as if she doesn't exist. At first, she made snarky comments and tried to stir up drama, but since no one backed her up, she eventually gave up. She did have a meltdown when she was told she was invited to my wedding but would not be involved in any preparations. My brother says he feels guilty for going along with things for so long, and his relationship with my ex has suffered as a result. They still talk, but they're not as close as they used to be. A couple of weeks ago, it was my mom's birthday, and I finally announced that we're expecting our first child. This isn't the first grandchild, but it's the first granddaughter. Everyone was thrilled except my sister. My mom noticed this and invited me for tea a few days later. My gut told me not to go, but I decided to stay positive. When I arrived, the first thing I saw was my sister's car. As I walked in, I found not only my sister but also her husband, my ex, and my ex's mom. They had arranged an intervention because they thought my so-called childish tactic of not speaking to my sister had gone on long enough. My ex said he was just trying to be romantic in the past and now understood that I didn't appreciate it. His mom chimed in, claiming that I was hurting my sister, who only wanted the best for me, and that since my sister had already apologized, I needed to forgive her. I was in shock and started texting my family, my dad, brother, and husband while staring at my mom in disbelief. My brother-in-law had the nerve to tell me that I'm a hurtful person who needs to grow up, especially now that I'm going to be a mother. Then my mom read a letter she'd written, talking about how heartbroken she was that her daughters aren't close, how my sister was wrong but well-intentioned, and so on. My sister followed with her own tearful letter, essentially echoing what everyone else said. I sat there silently until my brother arrived. I've never seen him so angry. He grabbed my things and told everyone how disappointed and disgusted he was. We went outside and sat in his car until my dad and husband arrived. By then, I was sobbing, and my brother kept apologizing to me. I'm not sure what happened inside after that, but I sent an email to everyone involved, except my mom, including my lawyer's contact information, and stated that I no longer wished to be contacted by any of them. I made it clear that if they did reach out, I would involve the police. Since then, no one has contacted me directly, but my dad told me that my mom and sister are hysterical. They still hope to repair things and want my sister to be part of my baby's life, possibly even as the godmother. For now, my dad is staying with my brother, and both of them support me. However, some other family members don't, and even mutual friends have reached out, worried about my sister's well-being. Apparently, she's now spreading the narrative that my husband is the one keeping me away from my family. I hate airing my private matters in public, but I felt compelled to post a long statement on Facebook about everything that happened. As a result, my sister, brother-in-law, and ex are being heavily criticized, which I feel is deserved, even if it wasn't entirely my intention. My mom has been inconsolable, and while I do feel bad about that, it doesn't compare to how she made me feel during that so-called intervention. I agreed to speak with her a few days ago and set strict ground rules for any future interactions. These include attending therapy, both individually and as a family, respecting clear boundaries, not sharing information about me with my sister, and separate holidays if necessary. The most important thing to note is that if my mom ever pulls something like this again, she will be cut off for good. She feels this is too harsh, but she's willing to do it. She mistakenly thought that agreeing to my conditions would mean immediate access to baby news and that everything would be resolved. I made it clear that this is a process and she needs to prove that she has changed. My dad and brother have refused to speak to my sister and keep apologizing for not stopping this behavior sooner. We've forgiven them since they have shown they can move on and grow. My husband supports whatever I decide. But my mother-in-law is unsure if cutting my mom off from her granddaughter is the right approach. Ultimately, she says it's my decision, but I am torn about what to do regarding my mom. There are comments from people who think that now that I'm pregnant, I should stop playing make-believe with my husband and realize that my happily ever after is with my ex. Some have even asked what I'm planning to do about my baby if my ex and his family would accept her. My sister claims she's not trying to get us back together anymore, but that I can't take away her chance to be an aunt. She accuses me of being a bad sister for being close to my sisters-in-law, who are amazing people. I obviously don't believe her. My main dilemma is what to do about my mom. One commenter mentioned that she couldn't be my best friend without me dating my ex, which I think is ridiculous. My husband believes my sister may be mentally unwell, but regardless, her behavior is inexcusable. The most unsettling thing is that my ex still has the mixtapes and CDs I made for him when we were dating. Those are nearly 20 years old. It's disturbing that he's held onto them all this time. Another commenter was surprised that my ex, who they referred to as a stalker, is still part of my brother's life. But they advised me to stand firm with my mom and not rush the process. She needs to demonstrate that she can follow my rules. My sister needs to live with the consequences of her actions. In fairness to my brother, he did start cutting my ex off when I expressed how uncomfortable I was with him being around all the time, back when I was living away at college and visiting during breaks. My brother made a big effort to welcome my husband, which only strained his relationship with my ex further because my ex felt betrayed. Nowadays, my husband is one of my brother's closest friends, and he only speaks to my ex when it's about our nephew or to avoid being rude. One commenter pointed out that a big reason my sister persists is because she knows my mom supports her actions. This is heartbreaking because my mom has always been nice to my husband, but now I'm questioning their entire relationship. My background and culture don't align with the assumptions some people might have. We're not Indian, we're not particularly religious, and there's no wealth disparity between my ex and my husband. In fact, if there is, it would be in my husband's favor. For some additional context, my ex and I broke up when I was 18, and he's 37 now. The reason we split was because I didn't want to get married or engaged at that time. My sister's insistence on us getting back together comes from her fixation on us marrying brothers and becoming best friends. My mom has always been kind to my husband, but now I'm starting to think it was all a facade, which makes me really sad. My ex has dated other people since our breakup and even has 2 kids with an ex, but he's never been married. My sister claims it's romantic, that he's only ever wanted to marry me. His obsessive behavior isn't exclusive to me. He was the same way with the mother of his children. But now he's refocused on me because my sister is encouraging it. She's using him to get back into my good graces so she can play the role of a good aunt. On the day of the tea party, my mom told my dad she was preparing my favorite tea and treats. So, he couldn't stay since it was meant to be quality time between us. He left to hang out with my uncle, thinking it was a sweet gesture. Now, he's furious. My husband made every effort to get along with my sister when they first met. But he's since distanced himself and now believes she's mentally unwell. My mom, sister, ex, and his mom thought inviting him would help me face the root of my issues with my sister, or at least that's their official explanation. There's no cultural or religious angle here, and we're from the same background, with no significant class differences. They seem to have convinced themselves that this intervention was for my own good. But I see it for what it really was: a manipulative attempt to force me back into a situation I've clearly moved on from. Both of my sisters-in-law, my brother's wife and my husband's sisters, are enraged about the situation. My husband and his sisters plan to talk to their mom about her insensitive comment. Meanwhile, my brother and his wife are considering going no contact (NC) with our mom permanently. For now, they've decided to limit her access to their children. The more I reflect on everything, the more I realize that I might need to go NC with my mom too, for the sake of my own child. My husband is heartbroken to think that all their past interactions with my mom may have been fake. He's even more upset that she made me cry and doubt myself as a good person. I realize there are still countless conversations that need to happen within my family regarding my mom. But one thing is certain: I will be seeking a restraining order against my sister and my ex. The current state of my family is strained. I had a conversation with my mom, but she insisted that she knew best, and even went as far as to call me a bad person. She threatened that she would pursue grandparents' rights or even custody. While I know this isn't realistic, it still sent me into a panic, so we sent her a formal letter through our lawyer. My dad has officially moved out. He told her he couldn't stand by while she terrorized their own child. My brother and his wife have also decided to go NC. I know this may seem sudden, but I think I underestimated the level of despair I felt after the intervention. My husband made it clear to everyone afterward that they needed to carefully consider what they truly value and be kind and receptive, but that we would not raise our child in a toxic environment. Reason number 3271 why I love my husband. He's incredibly heartbroken over my mom's deceit and says that she'll never get anything from him ever again. As for revenge, that's as far as it goes here. My husband and his sisters had a conversation with my mother-in-law about her comment, helping her understand why it was so out of line. She's a loving mom from a caring family, and she now sees why her words were hurtful. My dad and brother continue to apologize for any role they played in enabling the situation. My dad still can't believe it's come to this. He says it feels surreal. Regardless, they both support me completely and have vowed to help me fight whatever battles may arise, whether from my mom or my sister. Thank you for all the kind messages and encouraging words. I'm posting this here so it doesn't get deleted like my original post. Things are both great and terrible right now, but I'm trying to stay positive. My brother and his wife sat down with my nephews and explained that Grandma is ill and tried to hurt Auntie Diamond and their little cousin. They told the kids that Grandma would no longer be part of their lives, but that doesn't mean she doesn't love them. It was a tough conversation, but the kids are smart. They were also told that their other aunt, my sister, is no longer in their lives. But they don't really care because they never liked her anyway. She was never great with them either. My mom lost it when she was told about this and started claiming she had rights and would fight to see her grandchildren. My dad is now looking for a permanent place to live but is staying with us until January, mainly because my brother's mother-in-law is visiting and we have more space. He's really sad but has already contacted divorce lawyers, moved his bank accounts, and taken other steps to separate from my mom. Despite receiving countless emails, messages, and calls from her, he isn't responding on the advice of his lawyer. He did briefly consider forgiving her, but after my last post, I had a huge spike in my blood pressure because of her. My mom showed up at my house unannounced with my sister. My sister had never been to my home before, and my mom knew I didn't want her there, but clearly that didn't matter. The cleaning lady let them in because she knows my mom, and I hadn't had time to inform her that my mom was no longer welcome. I saw their car when I returned home from errands. Instead of going inside, I called my relatives. My sister-in-law, my husband's sister, was the closest, so she came over and confronted them, telling them they had to leave or I'd call the police for trespassing. They left, but I started feeling unwell. We went to the doctor, and they warned me that all this stress isn't good for the baby and that I need to start relaxing. My dad, brother, uncle, and husband went back to our home and removed every item that might remind me of my mom and sister. Hi everyone, I've received several requests for an update and finally found a little time, so I decided to share what's been happening. I also want to extend a heartfelt thank you for all the comments, messages, and advice. Your support has helped us more than I can express, even making us more cautious and careful than we initially were. To address some of the questions I've received, a few people asked how we found out the gender of our baby. We waited until after 20 weeks to announce it. The reason we held off was due to a previous loss we experienced, which we were preparing to announce when it tragically happened. This time, we wanted to wait until we felt secure and confident before sharing the news. We also hoped that making the announcement would be special for my mom, though in hindsight, we now see how naive that was. After I posted the original update, I handed it over to my husband, and he spent several days reading your messages, comments, and advice. Unfortunately, things took a darker turn after that. My dad later shared that when he went back to our home to collect some of my belongings, my sister was there too, screaming at him that he had destroyed her family. My dad confronted both my mom and sister, telling them they nearly caused the loss of our baby, and he no longer wishes to speak to either of them. My sister has since been bombarding my brother with messages begging for help, but he's made it clear he won't be stepping in. I am heartbroken, especially for my nephew, who is losing so much of his family because his mother has such toxic and unhealthy ideas, but it is what it is. Regarding my mom's talk about grandparents' rights in custody, my lawyer sent her a letter stating that she has caused harm to both my health and the baby's well-being. The letter made it clear that if she continues to harass me, legal action will follow. My brother also sent a similar letter about her harassing behavior toward me. Despite everything, both my mom and sister have refused to attend therapy. Whether or not they are dealing with mental health issues, it's clear they have been aligned in their behavior for a long time. Given all that's come to light, I realize there's no point in waiting for change. Right now, I'm focusing on spending the holidays with my family, staying healthy, and prioritizing therapy. As time passed, our family slowly began finding peace again. The toxicity that had once overshadowed every family gathering was gradually fading as we focused on the love and stability that remained in our lives. The process of healing wasn't linear, it never is. There were days when I would catch myself mourning the mother I wished I had, especially when milestones came up. My child's first steps, their first words each moment carried a bittersweet tinge. It was as if I could hear echoes of the relationship that could have been. But those echoes only served as reminders of why we had to protect our little family. My husband was my rock throughout it all. Whenever I felt moments of weakness or uncertainty, he would ground me with his calm presence and unwavering support. Our marriage had been tested in ways we never imagined, but in many ways, it had brought us closer. We became a united front, prioritizing our family's safety and well-being over the lingering guilt or sadness we felt about cutting ties with certain relatives. We decided that it was time to explore what expanding our family could look like. Adoption had always been on our minds, and we started attending information sessions, speaking with agencies, and connecting with other families who had gone through the process. The idea of bringing another child into our loving environment, one where they would be safe, cherished, and surrounded by positivity, felt like the perfect next chapter for us. My father, still living with us, had found a renewed sense of purpose. Although he still struggled with the aftermath of his marriage, the distance from my mom gave him the clarity he needed to rebuild his own life. He was actively involved with his grandchildren, forming bonds with them that seemed to heal parts of his own heart. His presence in our home was a source of comfort and stability for everyone, and the kids loved having their grandpa around. Our relationship with my brother's family also grew stronger. We spent many holidays together, creating new traditions free from the tension that had once tainted every gathering. My sister-in-law, who had quietly endured so much for the sake of keeping the peace, was finally able to express herself openly. It was like we all exhaled together, letting go of years of buried frustration and hurt. As for my ex, Bates, the harassment didn't completely stop, but it lost its power over us. Every rambling letter, every rumor he tried to spread, was met with nothing but silence. He was still the ghost of a chapter we had closed, and while his attempts at clawing his way back into our lives were relentless, they were futile. Our lawyer remained vigilant, keeping all documentation ready in case things escalated. We even made the decision to take legal action if needed, but so far, Bates seemed to be losing momentum. The encounter at the grocery store where a stranger asked if my child was his baby still lingered in my mind, but I chose not to dwell on it. Instead, we focused on increasing our privacy. Social media accounts were locked down, and we became even more cautious about who we shared personal information with. The realization that my own aunts had been feeding information to my mom was a harsh blow, but it was a necessary revelation. Once we discovered the leak, it was easier to draw our boundaries and cut ties where needed. Thank you very much for watching to the story so far. I suggest you to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss tomorrow's stories.